Yeah, a lot of TVs per square foot. You know.
Recording in progress.
All right, so the mic's on. Staff, AM staff, are you good to go on your end? Just give me a thumbs up in chat if you can. I'm sure they're fine.
Are you there, Fred?
I think Fred's there. All right, so. Chair.
I will also order a meeting of the Marina Tree Committee. And who does the roll call?
I think I'm gonna do it. Chair Simmons,
Here.
Vice Chair Gardner,
Here.
Member Markham.
Here.
School Committee Member Bill Vera.
Here.
School Committee St. John, Member of St. John.
Here. Yeah. Okay, would somebody like to, we're gonna have a moment of silence. And we're gonna stand and honor we, 30 seconds.
That's good.
And you can reflect on the terrible state of the world right now, and with our friend Michael and still with us in spirit. Someone would like to volunteer to do the. Okay.
You don't have a flag. We could find a flag online if you want.
No, we'll mention it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, does anyone have any special announcements or special events or meetings of interest? Information that would be of interest to the committee and any public members?
Next Thursday from 4 to 6, we will be hosting a public workshop in the council chambers on the draft implementation plan and land use plan update for our local coastal program. So focusing on coastal hazards and sea level rise. Get the word out.
Is that completely in person meeting?
It's totally in person.
Okay.
Yeah. Was it anything? Next Thursday, the 26th. That's right before our regular planning session. 4 to 6.
Yes.
Yep.
Come on in.
It's a little crowded.
Almost. That meeting 4 to 6 is in the council chamber.
Yeah, right before your planning.
Anybody else have any announcements or special events or meetings? No. Okay, we're moving on to number 5. This is the time for communications from the floor, and that could be any person in the public and anybody on the committee. I will remind folks that these are communications about matters that are not on the consent agenda. So anything other than what's on our agenda tonight. There will be comments, the same period of 3 minutes, public comments at the time of the consent. Any comments from you? Okay. Number 6, does anybody have any ex parte communications to report? They need a reminder. I've been liberal in my own reading of what's required. You know, usually report anything, even if it doesn't directly impact any matters before us. Tonight, I have one. I was made aware that there's some public interest in the tree removal permit that's on our agenda tonight. And I was made aware by being copied on email. I didn't participate in the email conversation, but I know a number of the people who are involved, and I just noted that that was public interest. So that's the extent of the report.
I was also copied on that.
Well, I don't know, we're just working the same circles or people know it's on the tree.
Is that part of like it should have been our, right? Yeah. So
Part of the consideration.
that's
Yeah.
how I
Yeah,
see
oh.
it.
The correspondence?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just.
No, that was a letter to the committee. I'm talking about an email about this meeting, about the concern about the tree removal, about the identity of where the trees, people who live in there. I wouldn't be surprised if some of those folks came, but I was copied. Okay, nobody else. Okay, so the consent agenda, I think the first item is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, I can second that. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so the motion passes. Okay, now we're at the period of public hearings, and these are for matters. The first matter before us, I think we take them one at a time. We have two matters before us. One is a Marina Station tree removal permit, and then the other one's a discussion about the community work plan. So I think we separate those two. If anybody has comments about the second item, that'll have to be. So do we have any comments from anybody in the room about the proposed tree removal permit? I will also mention that it's my understanding when we have a motion, is it correct that there can be additional public before we decide on the motion?
So this is a good time to clarify the way action items work when there's public. So typically the way it works is staff gives a presentation to give everyone information about the project. Usually it lasts 5 to 10 minutes. Then we give the applicant an opportunity to give a 5 or 10-minute presentation. At that time, the tree committee members can answer questions or ask questions of either staff or the applicant, typically technical questions. Then you open up the public comment, each, as you said, 3 minutes for each member of the public, and then it goes back to the tree committee for discussion and more questions if you have more questions.
Oh, it's right there in the, of course, that's the way it usually is. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just reading that with public comment. Let's have them right now.
Yeah.
No, let's wait, and let's move on to the agenda item then. I think we're ready.
So our staff member, Allison Mentor, plan manager, will.
Thanks. So before I get started, I did just want to clarify, Chair Simmons was kind enough to point out that there is a typo on page 1 of the staff report. I inadvertently included that 7 trees in addition to the original 6 trees were being proposed for removal. That should be 5. So throughout the staff report, it referred to 11 total. So that was a little typo. Point that out in the beginning. As mentioned, this is the Marina Station tree permit for the removal of 11 trees on the property known as Marina Station.
Yes.
Can you make this little easier for me?
Yes.
And sorry, this is wordy for a PowerPoint, but. So the Marina Station project is a fully entitled project that was approved by the Planning Commission and City Council in 2008. That included the approval of a tentative subdivision map in multiple phases, the certification of an environmental impact report for CEQA or EIR, and the adoption of a development agreement along with several other entitlements. But those are the 3 main permits that were issued in 2008. And the development agreement is between the city and the developer, and it vests almost all of the regulations that were in place at that time. So city the developer is bound to the city rules that were in place at that time. And that provides the developer with some assurance that over time, it takes many years to build out a large project like this. So the city rules and regulations won't be changing over time. Other regulations like state or federal rules that might come into play can still affect build out on the project, but not the city regulations. So that's important to know because included in that development agreement are these things such as how to treat the site as you prepare for the development, all the grading and the layout of the space, the future landscaping, etc. So the original approval did include the certification of an EIR, and that EIR analyzed 6 trees to be removed. Now they've done much more detailed grading plans to get ready for the actual development of the project than they did back for the original approval. So they've learned throughout this course of just doing their due diligence that 5 more trees will need to be removed that were not already analyzed in the EIR. So as I note here, and the italics section of this second bullet is right from our municipal code. So the trees need to be removed because the development plans indicate that it's necessary to remove or relocate the tree to enable reasonable and conforming use of the property, which is otherwise prevented by the location of the tree. And that's right from municipal code 1762-060 C8. So that's what the tree committee's task is to determine whether or not the proposed tree permit is consistent with that.
Allison,
Yeah.
Would you prefer the holdout question, because I just had a small question?
My presentation's pretty short because
Yeah.
mine's full.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's
Yeah.
pretty good. So there are currently 160 trees on the entire 320 roughly acre property. And this permit seeks to remove 11 of those. As mentioned, 6 of those were already analyzed for removal in the EIR, and mitigation what has been included as part of the conditions of approval for the whole project, as well as this tree removal permit. Trees will be replaced at a 2-to-1 ratio as is required by our tree ordinance. And I included in Exhibit D of your staff report that there was a tree palette adopted as part of the original specific plan. So those are the trees that they are obligated to use both in their landscaping plan and for any tree replacement. So their phases 1 and 2, their first phases, are going to be replacing these 11, well, let me rephrase that. The 11 trees proposed for removal are throughout the property, so throughout the whole big project site. There are, how many are just in phase 1, 2?
800 plus.
No, in to be removed. I think, yeah, I think
Majority of them.
9 of the 11 are in phases 1 and 2. And those will be replaced by hundreds of new trees as part of their landscaping plan. So they'll be far exceeding the required 2-to-1 ratio. And just to clarify, because I know that this has been a big topic of late, these trees have been verified. The 2 trees that are along Beach Road are verified to be outside the Myco and Avenue landmark trees. So I did include the council resolution in your packet as noted. This is their rough grading plan. And this kind of just shows, I believe, either member Markham or Chair Simmons asked to see topography of the site. So, for example, here's the topography for those, southeast of the water tanks. And then here, along here on Beach Road, near DeForest, there's some contours there that need to be dealt with. There are two trees that are actually within the DeForest Road right of way that need to be removed, and that's because the project is required to put a roundabout in within that right of way there. And then there are two oak trees way up here on Del Monte,
The cypress.
cypress trees on Del Monte. Oh, that's not even Del Monte, that's, oh yeah, it's Del Monte, yeah. So I think those trees are also within the right of way.
Practically on the road.
Yeah,
So in Marina Road,
so they will have to put, frontage improvements all along here. So for CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, in addition to what was already certified under the EIR, tree removal is exempt per section 15304 of the CEQA guidelines under minor alterations to land. That's it for my presentation. I'm open for questions. If you're, oh, actually, this should be recommended approval. Sorry, I provided this recommended motion for the committee, but you're actually making a recommendation to the development director. So if you choose to recommend approval, you can just read this, but say, I move to recommend approval of the fee permit. So that's it for me. Any questions of staff really fast? Otherwise, the developer team can do their quick presentation.
Anybody have any questions now?
I wasn't aware of the roundabout, so is that the reason why the trees that are in the park? I would suggest you for that now.
The trees up by DeForest are in the road right of way, I think.
They're right,
Oh, they're
they're
the
attached to
park.
Windy, they look like they're part of Windy.
They are.
Yeah, so they may look like they're in Windy Hill Park, but they're actually in road right of way. It's just road right of way.
I see. Okay.
So it's hard to tell sometimes because all the rights of way don't have like that nice line showing you where they are.
What's going in the area by the water?
That's going to be a park. So that's actually gonna be improved park area.
Some of the questions I have might be cleared up from your presentation. But one question, right now, I don't know if we'll actually get to see the actual layout of the development. That grading plan is still hard to tell. Anyway, just where the trees are relative to actually what things are going to be developed and the grading and addition to the other things. And then the other question that's kind of related to that, and there's regarding the landmark line of trees, that's as close as any of the other trees are to the actual settle of the units. I'm just curious, who'd like to do it, or I'd like to develop this. Measures in place to mitigate damage to the root systems. A pretty long line of trees, and it's right on the project.
Yes, I think the project engineer and the arborist will probably be able to do
But
it.
let us just introduce them. I'm Michael Katie. I'm with Third Millennium Partners, TMP. We are the developers that are in agreement with the city. Along with me is Andy Hunter from Whitson Engineer. He's a civil engineer. And Patrick's the arborist from Denise Duffy Associates. So we actually went out there, and given this project was approved in 2008, a lot has not changed, but things have changed. So we did a new arborist study when we're having conversations with Allison. We've been dealing with the city now for three years to revive this project. And we're very happy that Allison and Guido are here now, because they've been a great help to try to get through some of the bumps of the old project that's been approved and trying to make it conform to a modern day wishes and desires. Most of the tree, in fact, I think all of the trees, and I'll defer to Andy and Patrick to talk about that. I mean, we're not willy-nilly taking them down. There's grading issues, there's right-of-way issues. We have obligations for our conditions of approval and our development agreement to put in entryways, new right-of-ways, to put in the roundabout that we're talking and things of that nature. So I find myself in a position to save a tree, but put in a roundabout. So I think we've tried to be as thoughtful as we can. As you know, there's not a whole lot of trees on the site right now. They're all along the boundary. Obviously the majority of them are along that what I'll call the southern boundary, which is basically the spine of the development. And most of those are coming out to accommodate the new right-of-ways that we have to put in and roundabout. So Andy, I don't know if you want to get into specifics about cut and fill some of the live oak road that's coming out. That is a cut and fill that needs to take place because we're obligated to put in 8+ parks, and that's one of the park areas. So to put in all the amenities in those parks, we have to cut it and create a flat area to actually create the park. So a lot of what's being proposed is actually all of it's being proposed is because of engineering and creating prospects. I'll defer to Andy on technical specifics.
Yeah, and Patrick, I'll kick off here and jump in, but certainly when we start a project of this magnitude, we have to get our bearings and understand the topography and then overlay that with this site plan that goes back a long time ago and figure out how to get it to all work. So, and thinking in that third dimension, the grading is often the devil in the details there. So there was a lot of thought put into the tentative map from decades ago and had all those edge conditions, but as Michael's alluding to, those trees evolve and change, and we're taking a closer look down at another scale. But in reality, we take a first crack at the grading and see what we think it needs to be. Then we send our land surveyors out with Patrick and the arborist to go pinpoint exactly the size of each tree, exact locations of those trees, and start to overlay them on our grading plan and see where we've got some confidence. And we were able to go all around that western perimeter edge. Here on the screen, kind of from Michelle Court south and around the school property, and then over to Beach Road, and verify that all the trees that we found, how they relate to the grading, and then we made some adjustments to our edge conditions to push and pull, massage the elevations to make sure they're not going to impact the tree. Patrick's checking that grading and verifying his opinion that we have an appropriate setback. And we round the corner of Beach Road, and we've got the eucalyptus trees. So we understood the history of those. We understood that how close they are to that road right away. They are a boundary to the project. We first laid out our grading plan, and we showed some grading up to the tree zone, and talked with Patrick, came up with some creative ideas that right through that area is a 4-tag trail extension, spur of the main 4-tag trail, which the main one goes around the outside perimeter of the project. This will be a spur off of that and takes the more western loop. And so right along Beach Road, there's going to be a new trail system, and it's going to hug the western edge of the property and make its way all the way back to the lawn. So we came up with a way, instead of just keeping the trail down flat, to instead have some vertical changes to the profile of that trail to better conform to the edges along the Beach Road eucalyptus trees, and help push our grading limits to a safe distance away that Patrick's opinion felt that we could handle. Then we work our way around towards the tank parcels, the NCWD tank parcels. Well, actually, sorry, before there, the Wendy Hill Park, as it's been alluded to, that's just happens to be it's an intersection. The forest road is going to be extended straight through there. There's a traffic circle at the middle of that intersection, the beach and the forest, and it's, you know, the right of way is where it is. We didn't really have, like, I had some tools at my disposal to work with the grading along the beach road edge and on the western edge, but right there, the road, I couldn't really move it because the existing roads are there and it's going to extend and the trees are in the middle of that. So we had to move past that one, but as we worked our way towards the tank parcels, all that edge is a future park. And we needed to balance in the specific plan and subsequent city council meetings, you know, over the last few years, there's been some attention to all the certain park amenities that need to be retained in the acreages provided. So have to work with landscape architect, make sure that they can hit the amenities in those areas and that we can rate it in such a way to conform. Along the western and northern edges of that park, we were able to save those trees that were with like right on the fence line of the tank parcel. There's at least one that comes to mind in the northeast corner of the MCD parcel that we were able to conform the grading around and save that was originally shown to be removed.
Are you talking about the western side where it says MCWD?
So Allison, if you rotate your cursor right there, in
Okay.
that zone, there was an original tentative map had a tree that was to be removed, and it's in our park area. We were able to keep that grade high. So yeah, I guess
The
we
trees
can
that I'm talking about,
follow along on the
Or-
table here. If you guys have your packet, I can maybe give you some numbers. So it's the tree 141 in the figure 2D of your packet. This is the 141.
okay, fine.
That's also safe. So yeah, maybe I should have followed along on this packet so you can see it a little bit better. So if you look back on, if you'll take a step back here, back on figure 2C, all the green eucalyptus trees that you can see, that's where I was talking about the trail and how it conforms to existing grade. And after we took our first pass, we did a couple back and forths with the tree surveys and Patrick to conform the grading. Trees 408 and 409 are just right in the middle of this forest road extension, and I had to. I didn't have much at my disposal there to work around them. So that generally concludes figure 2C. And then as I move over to figure 2D in your packet, all that MCWD edge on the north and on east on here, the trees 98, 99, 100, and then all the way to 141 was the tree that I specifically said that previously the tentative map had showed it to be removed. We were able to work our grades around that and save 141. And then as we round that corner, we can see the X's on 2D. Those are some oak trees, 401, 407, that are on the Marina Station property adjacent to the tank parcel. And the Crescent Avenue, you're asking about what are improvements that come through here. So Crescent Avenue is a road that's going to extend and on in between Crescent Avenue and the MCU tank parcel is a new park. And to get the road grade of Crescent Avenue, and you've got this big MCWD hill right there, we unfortunately had to push that slope around to be able to fit in the road and fit in the park. And we weren't able to also save those trees while also providing those over. But
About how big is this
generally- it's a 2 to 3 acre park, I believe.
And just when we talk about the parks, those parks are all obligations per our development agreement. So those are obligations the city put on us to not only put in, but they're very specific of what amenities go with them, 3 benches, 2 receptacles, a bathroom. So there's Allison can attest to this, there is a chart in the back of the DDA says Park 1 gets this, Park 2 gets this, Park 3 gets this, Park 4 gets this. So they're not delineated, and they're an obligation where we build the park and then we can give it over to the city. Actually, all homeowners will pay for the maintenance of them, in a bit of a unique situation. So, those are, I guess what I'm trying to say is they're not discretionary, they're
Right.
obligations of the specific plan.
Yeah, Patrick, I missed me think about our process as trying to, okay, I guess I'm trying to have you guys see what's going on behind the scenes a little bit and, from us taking a first crack, then we go out and do a lot of surveys. Patrick reviews our work, gives us feedback, we make manipulations.
I guess
within our ability.
I would just reemphasize that we do go around the edge, look at which trees can be adjusted now. It's not just, these are the plans, this is what's removed, there is back and forth.
So tree 141, for instance, was originally shown to just be part of, the slope, to be removed, and we were able to come back and adjust.
And I think too, to remember a specific plan, they kind of look at a flat piece of paper, we've moved forward to improvement plans and actually, okay, if you go out there and people live there, there's actually quite a bit of topography out there. And when you start encountering that topography, how does a 3-acre park get there and a road that has to be this wide and a roundabout that has to be, and you run into these issues, and that's why we're here.
Break in with one more question. For this small part, I'm going to call it a small part.
Yeah.
Compared to the whole project. Has the Parks Department in 2023 given the chance that they were gonna have to knock down 4 or 5 trees because of all the obligations from 2008 or whenever those obligations were signed? Let me give you one more chance. Can we re-side to the park or knock down the trees?
Yeah, I mean, that,
Have you done that? Taken that?
I've not been part of, are they part of the distribution process?
Parks has been in some conversations of this, but again, the whole point of completing the development agreement is so that the rules don't change from the city between 2008 and when they're actually coming to build the bank. That is what a development agreement is intended to do. So there's not a ton of flexibility on the city side to come in and say, well, we want those trees to remain, so we want you to redirect the Crescent Road extension or something like that.
Can we adjust the bench? If the bench was
Yeah, the
sitting where the
bench-
tree is, we
Yeah,
can
the,
move the bench.
the
Not talking
exact
about moving the road.
location, yeah, the exact location of the park improvements has not been finalized.
Yeah, it's about 10 feet of topography through there because they're on a hill.
So all of these trees are because of the Crescent Road infringement.
And
Well, I mean, we're talking about.
I mean,
the
listen,
park would be-
we can, the obligations or can be whatever they are, right? I'll do whatever the city wants, but I can't do both. Can't do the park and the trees. I'm more than happy to work however cooperative we want to remove trees, but
By doing the park, you mean you have a layout from 2008 of what the park.
yeah, they gave me an acreage and the facilities they want in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to put those facilities, no way can you keep the trees.
I don't think so, no.
well, part of it is because of the slope right there that the trees are located on.
I don't want to remove trees. There's no benefit for me to want to remove trees. I'm not here, obviously, I have over 800 trees alone going in phase 1 and 2, just in phases 1 and 2, and we're talking about removing 11. If I could make it 9, I would. If you want me to, it's easier for all of us, correct? It's easier for all of us not to have to remove trees. So I'm not doing it willy-nilly or uncaringly. We've saved a big one, so we've certainly tried to do the right thing, and the site will be well treated, well beyond what we have now. So
And now we started our questions, I guess we have.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you want to give the members of the public an opportunity.
Well, I haven't had any questions yet.
Okay.
There seemed to be questions why they were so presented. So I just wondered if we should have a period to ask questions formally now. The presentation's over, because I was kind of holding back. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't think we have any, we don't have any formal presentation. We're
Yeah.
open to answer those questions.
Well, I'll make, one comment first and then ask a few questions. And I don't mean to be critical, but part of the process of deciding on the treatment within the purview of this committee is to judge the developmental agreement between the plan, sites, locations, deciding the property county ordinance. Are they consistent with the development plan, the proposed removal? Very consistent. And I have to say, it's a little difficult to tell. We haven't seen any drawings of any parts or any roads. Just gonna finish with the comment. You can see, and I agree, it's a tough comment, but it is definitely a critical comment, but we don't have the kinds of information that we are supposed to have in order to make these kinds of decisions. And just personally, I don't doubt that, like you're saying, that you haven't done that, or you haven't really done your due diligence and all that, including our staff. But that's one of the tough things on this. Just, the other part of my comment is that, appreciate what you reference and also you're thinking about the tree replacement plan and really building a really beautiful development. But these are not just three old trees. I mean, these are actually, they're old. I would guess that the group of oaks that are, that's southeast of the water facility, are in excess of 100 years old. And they really have a lot of character. It's a really special group of trees. And just part of my comment is about the next item in our agenda. Is that I think the district committee wants to do more work to think about, and we more upfront include valuing significant trees in our development process from the beginning, not have. We're also talking about something from 2008, but just can we do that? And so my only question, and we're exploring that a little bit, we may have some other comments, but if there was any way that absent of the rules, not legalistically regulation wise, but is there any way from persuading that maybe there's a different way at trying to include those trees in the new park? Would there be any way to do that without causing a big regulatory problem and or significantly delaying the project? I mean, that's the thing that I would be interested in. If that would help. More for staff.
I mean, if the applicant is willing to go back to some engineering on that area, you could, how would you do this? You could, your recommendation could be, we recommend that this, I'm thinking of if this would need to be continued and brought back with a new design that keeps those trees
I think,
without.
Allison, I think we're amenable to that. What I don't want to happen, just so you know, I mean, this is an approved specific plan that's been around for decades. So the site plan, the EIR has been around for decades, and obligations go along with that, not only to the city, but also to us. And I can tell you, our feet have certainly been held to the fire for these past 3 years. So if the city, barring, I will not do a specific plan amendment, but if the city wants to say, Michael, you do not have to put these amenities in park, I can't remember what park this is, Park 6, because we want the trees, as long as it doesn't impact that, I'm amenable to that. But what I don't want the city to do, which they've done in the past, is make changes and then say, well, not only do we want to make you the change, we want you to we want you to pay for the lost amenities. I'm not gonna do that because I've played that game a bunch and I've been very cooperative and have never been reciprocated. So again, I'm amenable, like Mr. St. John says, if that is a trade-off the city is willing to make and make it fair for me to do that trade-off, I'm amenable. Now, I'm not speaking from a civil and engineering standpoint. I don't know what he can and can't do based off of Preston Road.
Yeah.
But if there are compromises, I'm certainly fine with that, right? I'm not looking for a fight.
Do you know what amenities they want in that park?
I think there's a permanent, one of them's a permanent restroom, right, Andy?
That's on six.
Is that on 6? Okay, yeah,
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me.
yeah, there's a whole matrix.
It's an active park. It's not like a soccer field kind of active, but it's not just to like look at it. But,
Yeah, and to build off of what Greg was saying as well, it's hard for me, it's very difficult to do it, but consider these because I'm looking at these one of the trees. And 406 and 407 specifically like significantly overlap with some of the other trees that are outside of the project site, which makes me question because I'm being told that these need to be removed for amenities for a park, but also I don't really see the difference between some of these trees with the other trees that are not going to be removed. So I just, the very difficult thing to consider without saying specific.
Andy's are where you walking through the grading.
yeah, can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
I mean,
And I can show you some contours. So
The contours are gonna help, otherwise you're looking at a flat
Yeah.
piece of paper.
I brought some grading.
I can't see.
Contour, sorry, I don't, Allison, I don't know if you have something you want to put on the screen or I can have this.
I can put the,
2D, figure that way. No.
You have the grading plan you want to put on the screen or is that what you're asking to see?
yeah, it's just.
Anything to get to and
But I'm-
basically it's not usable. Yeah.
Impact of the drip line isn't necessarily bad, but impact is like, I think you're looking at.
I'm looking at 406, 407, and how they.
everybody, if we
Yeah,
could
It's
kind of
pretty back, yeah.
bring it back to, sorry, not to overstep the chair, but if we could just have one conversation.
Are
going.
we ready? We're waiting for you to read my class.
Okay.
I think the grading.
Alright, so, Andy, are you talking about the grading plan you just sent to me or one that is?
Yes, I can pass it around and talk, huddle over this, but if you happen to have.
Andy, can you put it on the table or just walk him
Yeah.
through it? Might be a little bit easier to.
Okay. While you open that up, I'll bring this on the table. So this is a sheet of the grading plan. This is Crescent Avenue that makes its way through, so the property boundary north is towards you.
Sorry.
It's on north is towards you here. This P7 represents the park property. There's a PG parcel. There's a gap here, there's some water mains, cycle and portable. And then this is the parcel. So you can see these little shapes from the 20. And this is full foot ice. So in essence, today, the great contours, the slope comes out into Crescent, it's this full foot. And then, my screen is sloping up, but I can't go up like sort of on the road, I can climb this. So it comes up in the gradual. And then we created a flat space in the park. Essentially, historically, this might be more like 2% slope down and pushing. The water tower is right off.
This is the existing grade.
Which the grade.
Okay.
Black, it's not.
I see.
So
What's
great
the-
lines are first.
What's the distance from your road edge to Jordan's Piece?
Yeah, so roughly speaking, that's about like. That's 40 feet, so that's about a 40-foot wide span.
And what requirement for road, how much kind of grading the side of the road?
The grading can go right up to the, you know, the trees are not in the road. I guess. The trees are in, you know, our parcel. And just the parcel is part of the thing. And so we are creating some flat space. Useful. The trees are on flats.
Yeah.
It's at the top. So,
Yeah, the issue really then is not the road, it's the development of this new park.
It's a great change. It's a
Right.
great change. So in essence, the slope, that thickness of black lines needs to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it certainly could be over here, and it could go right up to the tree. You can kind of visualize that distance, you know, over here. And maybe that fits, you know, right up to those shapes of the tree. And here it is behind us. Maybe I can point at that now. Yeah. That helps. Okay, so same sheet here. Michael, I'll stand right over you. Thanks. Like this. Oh, all right, sorry. Cozy. So Kristen Avenue is starting to climb up this hill. This is the water tank site. All these gray lines represent the hill that exists today for the water tank. So the property line is this big bold line, but the hill of the tank extends out into it. And, you know, I'm sorry, I'm realizing you technically have an older version of this plan there, Allison, but you can see the drip lines nonetheless. There's some tree shapes inside this drip line in here. And yeah, there you go. You're covering over the drip line there. So we are creating a flat space adjacent to the road for a usable park that can be accessible from the community. The hill is still the hill, and we're trying to leave that alone, but create. I'm sorry, I don't have the list of amenities that go into this Park 7 right now, but it provides an access point from the street. If we decided that that park didn't need amenities and, you know, had a different approach, this width of black contour lines could come over and come right up to the road right away. It would push the toe of the slope right next to the road. And you'd have, you know, some of the trees at the top could be saved. It just wouldn't be an accessible park. It'd be something to look at in the distance, but I don't think you'd be able to walk to it because it would be at the top of that each one of these bold lines is 5 feet, so that's about 12 foot high.
The slope, sorry.
Yeah.
The slope from this side is much reduced. It's pretty steep up at the top here where the trees are. But
That's right.
down here, it's a fairly, so you could access those trees from
That's
here.
true. Maybe it's a one way in, one way out kind of a thing. But yeah, so you're looking at a difference perhaps of the Marina Station specific plan has some formal parks and all the amenities that go with the formal parks and the new landscape and pathways and benches and trash cans and drinking fountains that all go in here. Not I guess. Natural.
Oh, natural.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions from the committee?
Just to note that on the specific plan, they talk about formal park spaces and open space requirements. So both of those components are obligations within the specific. Again, I'm amenable to, yeah, however we can, if we can to make it work. Particularly on this one, so I think this is the one where there's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, the most flexibility, if there's flexibility underneath.
Yes, you see the question there, yeah, the other ones are, you know, like the road going through it, what can you do?
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay, question is staff. If we were to start thinking about a kind of a motion that might capture what we're talking about, should we hear from the public first?
Yes.
Yeah.
Should please open it up.
Okay, let's, thank you for your presentation. We'll open up for public, comments. Please, state your name and, you'll have 3 minutes. So whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. My name is Margaret Davis. I wrote you an email this morning so I won't rehearse that, but I really appreciate, Mr. St. John's and Commissioner Simmons' comments about, and seems like we have Windy Hill Park, which is an active park and very heavily used. And 200 yards away are these trees. Why can't they be a passive park? And why can't these amenities be looked after one more time? I know the old planning commission, the planners staff was not known for huge creativity, but it seems like there's this insanely great opportunity to maybe even, and I know probably a developer would choke, but what you really need, because I walk my dog there twice a day, is Windy Hill Park has an outhouse and it's disgusting and kids are there all the time. And people aren't going to go all the way over to this park to use the restroom. Why can't the restroom be put in Windy Hill Park and finally solve that problem for the city? Yeah, are you choking already?
No. It's actually with developers, we get everybody thinks that we're gonna, we want the worst and remove trees and that's not. Thank you.
Well, if there could be some sort of situation that really solves the problem for Marina overall, not just the little line of people who happen to be living right by this park and want to use their restroom instead. Nobody really goes over there, and even when it's built up, people are going to use their own bathrooms by and large. So, okay, shoot it down.
Well, then we'll move on to, any other comments?
Sorry, can I?
Yes, go ahead and state your name.
Sure. So my name is Alistair Rod. I'm a resident of Monterey Bay Estates. I'm happy to see that my tree is number 98 on this list, and thank you therefore for looking after it. Let me just start by recognizing the efforts that the developer has made to date to review all of the trees, even those that are outside of the property, to make sure that those trees are maintained and retained integral. So thank you for that. My comments are pertaining to the same set of 7 coast live oaks that we've been talking about. I'm aware that the specific plan has the wraparound path going from Windy Hill all around the water tower to this particular area. And my question and statement is to ask the tree committee to see whether there's a possibility that at least some of these 7 coastal live oaks could be retained in situ. The location is the trees are located mostly on a flat plateau, which then slopes down steeply to the east, but more a slighter gradient down to the south. So there's a possibility for retaining that as part of the open space. And what I believe is a requirement that all around the perimeter of this is some kind of a walking path or an access, so this could be maybe incorporated into that as part of this sort of a natural path. So I guess that's my request, is that the tree committee see whether there are options. Maybe not all of the trees can be saved, but it's a really nice grove. It has aesthetic appeal, but has natural appeal. It's part of that group of trees that extends into the water tower, and I think it would benefit. It would benefit from a closer look to see whether those trees could be retained. The other trees, it's clear just to make sure I've got time. It's obviously clear to me that we can't retain the trees in Windy Hill because they really are part of that direct access. And I have not studied the other trees at the far end. So thank you.
Thank you. Let me see any other members of the public. I think that closes public comments. So now we have a discussion in this session. Anybody have anything to start with? Or we can ask, now we can talk amongst ourselves, and then we can also ask staff. And you may decide to research my concern about the field.
We just follow up with the thought that I had earlier. If we could see that, public drawing at the end, it shows the extension of road crescent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if the park had flexibility for the amenities in favor of retaining more of the open, without putting an undue burden on the developer, would that work for the committee and for the public, Mr. President?
I don't know if we're allowed, so I didn't know if I could even ask questions. I thought I could only make the
I'm
statement.
not sure.
Yeah, they provide their
Yeah, I
comments,
think
they're
you're-
not,
Because I have a ton of
Not
questions.
showing.
You're cut off.
yeah.
So I think if we have a motion, I believe you can make comments before the motion. We have a motion, is that correct? No.
There's no motion.
I'm thinking about city council stuff.
Well, I think that any discussion we have is gonna have to involve the Parks Department.
Well, yeah, okay, so, all right, that's a good comment. We can come back to that. If there's a question there, we have to ask if we can try to see something different. That'll be a question for staff. You wanna ask that question, or what? Or I can ask. Yeah. Well, so we're talking about, the potential for some flexibility in the plans, and that the developers are locked in, because of the agreements made, more than 10 years ago, 20 years ago almost. So, we're trying to explore either the flexibility of doing something different. I think we've got an advantage. We have a developer that has expressed that they might be able to do that if they don't get at a huge cost by being made to replace the amenities somewhere else. One advantage also is that on other matters like this, we're not talking about taking out a house that they had planned. This is a park, so that the trees that are there could possibly to fit into an open space, natural kind of park. And it's a different concept of park. So the question I have to staff is, if we were to make a motion like that, explore options for relaxing the strict requirements for the amenities that they're required to provide. How to go about doing that? What would we do?
Do they have that purview under anything specific?
Well, yeah, so again, your responsibility is taking the tree ordinance as it's written right now and making findings for what's proposed. So what you're asking right now would require amending the development agreement, which is really not an option.
Well, I'm just wondering if we could, I'm hearing some willingness to maybe do something differently. So I'm just wondering, is there a motion we can make that would communicate that, I guess, to planning commission and to the city council? I'm not sure. Is that an option?
So your option
Yeah.
could be to continue this meeting,
Yeah,
preferably to a date certain, although we have to arrange schedules, so we'd probably just renotice it. And have the engineer prepare a revised grading plan that can show where the required amenities can be located. While reserving this approved Crescent Avenue extension, because the Crescent Avenue extension cannot be changed at this point. That is there.
Yeah, I would like to suggest maybe, it seems a lot of it's concentrated on the water tank area. If we can look at the rest of the request and resolve those, that would also be helpful. And that way we
Yeah.
can confine discussions that allows kind of me to move forward and Andy to move forward with improvement plans and things of that nature. So I would just like to suggest that we maybe look at the residual of it while we're discussing what.
And,
I
well,
think we can.
yeah, and
Yeah.
just another option would
Yeah.
be, you can make your recommendation to allow for the removal of all the other trees, but not these trees. And it's up to the final decision maker, which in this case actually is the development department director, not the planning commission.
Okay.
So it would be his ultimate authority to take your recommendation, do his own analysis and make his final action on the tree permits. So those are the two alternatives. You know, he may ask Andy to prepare new plans for his review to see if they can be retained on the site as they are already.
Okay, well, if that actually happens, we could propose that the new park be named after the developer office. A tremendous amount of flexibility. I think these trees are really dear to a lot of people that live in that
Guarantee you
neighborhood. But anyway, I think I'm starting to get the notion of a motion, but any more comments of proposed motion? And any other members have, let's hear from you.
And then you also want
Yeah.
to say that these trees are monument, Marina, because it's looking there, it's gonna be straight right up to the barb fence. I don't know. Property. Yeah, the. Chain link.
Chain
fence,
link.
Yeah, it's right up to the chain link fence. That fence is visible, not just from like Fort Fence, well, no, not just from the Fort Fence, the road, but it's driving Marina. It's really. That's it, so. I just wanna have a bit of, like, preserving the beauty of the specific.
Jackie, any comments?
Yes, because this is a Oakland community and, it's a beautiful area. And I'm glad the other ones are being saved on the other end of the. Lot of, they're older. They're well. But I agree with you. If we can work out something to save this, it doesn't have to be a small soccer field or small. It can be more of a seating area, hiking trail, a nature park. It is used a lot. It already is used a lot. If people walk in that front of it and have this continue on being a walking.
For the longest time, it was actually closed to the public for people who were supposed to go there.
Trespassing, I hide
Jeff, you haven't had any recent time. Do you have any?
I had a question for our assessor.
We walk
I've been
up
on,
there.
I've been on Sundays to walk through the trees. Particularly happy with this, going to say that it's a spectacular view. I believe 407 was not in good shape. So this is-
Yeah.
So that one is,
I couldn't remember which one, but yeah, I really have to do that.
that tree's.
Not that makes my project.
Yeah.
And 407 was, sorry, I'm not looking at it, just one of the
Yeah.
proposed removals.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
So that tree I haven't.
In the report, it's,
Yeah.
it's fair.
It's fair and healthy.
I took some.
If I could do for fair or fair good, I would, but I stick to the two.
That particular tree
A
is.
lot of these are showing signs of hypoxylate growth, dying limbs, and that one especially. Has a lot.
Yeah, so that was not a great one. So I think, we may want to assess, which one of the.
Not all of them, but.
Well, I don't know that we would get a great clarity of one tree over another at that scale. But I think the motion, if he's proposing one to be much broader than that, which is potentially approve some removals and ask if the planning director would consider working with the developer to look at modifications to the amenities to try and preserve as many of those trees as possible. And that's the shape of a motion I'm
If I can make a comment, might be helpful if you give us some directions of some of the particular trees. It sounds like you've looked at them.
Yeah.
That you'd like to save, because it might provide some flexibility for, I'm gonna go to Andy. I don't wanna make promises like, he's like, I can't, it physically doesn't work. If it's workable, Andy, I mean, do you think there's something there? If you give us some maybe specific trees in those groves that we think will healthy, it might provide him some flexibility where we can work with our landscape architect to place whatever amenities we need to place there, and physically, to Mr. St. John's point, can we get the amenities and save these 3 trees or 4 trees, and we make everybody
Same for the
happy? Exactly.
I went and looked at our trees. I went by the harvest report with the air conditions, so I didn't make a judgment on the individual health itself. They've been suffering under drought and other conditions too. All right, well, I think everyone's done. We're on the comments.
For the motion, there were, I guess, still 11 trees on the permit list for demolition. Other than this group near the water tower, is there any other trees, contentious trees for this committee?
Well, I'll make some comments. I kind of tracked, I did go out there. I know I live near there, and so I kind of know the area anyway, but I went and looked at these specific trees, I found all the tags. And so the 2 trees out on Del Monte, the 2 cypress trees, they're really right on the road, and they're not particularly old trees. There's nothing special about them, and we don't need to cut them down. We shouldn't, but I can see the grading plan. That they probably can be removed without any real issue. I see the need. I was curious myself about the trees that are, they are 410, or no, 408 and 409, which are at the entrance to Windigo Park or just to the side. I couldn't tell from the map that we had why they were being removed. So that would have been a nice detail to have. So my reading of it is, well, it's just question mark, why are these scheduled for removal? We've been told that they're part of the plan to build a roundabout. And I have no reason to doubt that that's what they need to do. So the motion I'm considering proposing would be to agree to the removal of 408 to 411. And then see if we can do something about the other 3.
Even if 407 was a dying tree, maybe it could be.
Well, I'm not an arborist. I tend to be one. But I was out there, reading the arborist report. They also I looked at them, and they're suffering from drought and other conditions. But I didn't particularly notice that tree was like very stressed. Yeah, those trees. Yeah, I think they're all stressed. But by any event, I didn't pick that one out, so that one's dead anyway. My comment about not getting into granularity of individual trees was just to try to make a broad motion to give planning commissions some flexibility to look at this situation. If the arborist thinks that maybe the trees aren't, or maybe they're not in certain condition, that might be part of the process. I don't know. But I think we had a kind of motion that suggests we'd like to look at this again. See, the planning director would be willing to work with the developer to consider other options about either trading off amenities or relaxing some amenities. That would be the motion.
The director will not have the authority to change. That's part of the development agreement that was adopted by the city council.
Well, so then what are the mechanics? Are we proposing something that won't work?
Well, what I would recommend is your motion is ask the project engineer to provide a revised, grading plan if possible, that shows the retention of those trees, whichever you pick. And take that back to the director for final decision. If it's impossible, the amenities that are required for this park are fairly nominal. It's not one of the. Yeah, I mean, it's a bench,
Allison, if you guys are okay with this, if you can approve everything except whatever, I can't remember whatever the numbers of those trees are. We do that tonight on trees, whatever that area that's behind the tanks, you will to the next, when is the next tree committee meeting? I'm hoping it's not too far off.
Well,
January.
we can
Oh,
have a special.
We can do it. This is a special meeting. We can
Yeah, this is a special.
that we'll come back with an alternative, I'm sorry. An alternative for that area. Approve everything tonight that you guys are comfortable with. We'll come back with an alternative grading area, and that gives us a chance to plot amenities, which might take everybody off the hook if I can get 2 benches, 4 picnic tables, 2 receptacles, and
Yeah,
that way everybody's happy. We don't have to go to another person to make a decision. I mean, only if that works for you, Allison. I don't wanna.
I think just procedurally, the whole thing would need to be continued. Because we can't have half of it approved. and the other half continued. I would say. I mean,
So,
it sounds like,
Why not? Can we approve some of the removals?
well, you can recommend approval, but if you want this committee to see the revised drawings, then
Well, but I mean, they're set, and we're trying, I think what Andy is suggesting is we separate these. So I'm just wondering if we we'd approve the partial approval of the permit. We say we approve the removal of 408 and 411. And then we'd like to have a continuance on 401 and 407, subject to the developers looking at, is it possible to adjust amenities and grading plans to preserve as many of those streets as possible?
Allison, if it's easier to do it in one motion, if we can get a special meeting that doesn't take me to January, she knows I'm very sensitive to time.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get a premium plan submitted.
Yeah.
If we can do that quickly, I think I'm comfortable with everybody's word here that really the only remaining issues right now are that clump of trees.
Yeah.
That I'm willing to have Andy draw it up, come back with what I can do, and hopefully have some approval and basically kind of try to show some goodwill for everybody. I'd like it to happen sooner than later.
Can we do that within a month?
Sure.
we can,
10 days, announce the meeting.
we do need 10
And
days
get
to
the-
notice.
and
Well,
get the
if
meeting ready.
we can all
Yeah.
get out our calendars and continue
Yes.
this to a date certain.
And please
right now.
confirm to me that it's only gonna be confined to those trees and I don't walk into
Well,
another
okay.
issue.
I think we first, what we need to hear, I'm ready to make a motion, I think. I might need some help making it into like 2 sentences and not a paragraph. So Allison, just to confirm, it doesn't apply to make a partial approval of removals?
Well. I mean, that is breaking it into 2 projects, basically. You're recommending approval of 408 to 411, but you want 401 and 407 to come back to this committee.
That's right. I works for me. I mean, it just to be on record that we said we thought it was okay. We don't have to talk about it. We'll do whatever you think is the best way to do it.
I think if you word your motion that way and your motion includes, we will come back to this committee for further review of 401 through 407 based on a revised grading plan. I think that will apply. It's a little bit.
The revised grading plan, if it's successful in our intent, would say that we've saved some of these trees.
My hope is that I can save, I'm not gonna promise all of them,
Right.
because I'm making promises to,
But you can't-
I'm only a planner, not a civil engineer. But if I can save some of those trees and get it into my amenity, so we don't have to address the park issue, the park issue is a specific plan DA obligation, and I can tell you right now, I am not going back to the city council for an amendment to the specific plan or DA. So if we could somehow come up with some sort of in-between solution that works for everybody.
Yeah, then we're gonna have a shorter list of removals, demos.
All right.
Yes.
Let me try it. Let me
That's
try
the
it.
intent.
Let me try with it. So, the motion is, the tree committee approves the removals of trees 408 to 411. We wish to have a continuance on the part of the permit referring to tree 401 to 407. Giving the developer time to look at the grading plan and the required park amenities. And that they shall return before our committee by middle of November at the latest.
And use that do it for you. You know, we're not making promises that, in your kind of eyeballing, it looks like that's something we might be able to, some compromise.
Yes, I've got some options to study.
Okay.
We can give more time if it.
Yeah. If I fail, I will let you know, or I'll let Allison know early that we're
We're
running into ahead.
sensitive to the time constraint, so it doesn't, I'm just setting a date.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so, so that's all. Please, want to read back that much?
I can attempt to read it back and once your real motion is really real, it'd be great if you can read the second half of this because we do need to have
Yeah.
findings.
Yes,
conditions
yes,
of
yes.
approval and
Okay.
CEQA stuff, but I have, the committee approves removal of trees 408 through 411 and continues the meeting to consider 401 through 407 based on revised grading plan
Options.
within a month.
Okay,
Just to clarify, it's
yeah,
recommend approval to the community development director, not approves.
Yes, sir.
okay, so, I'm going to approve the tree permit as presented for the removal of trees 408 to 411 based on findings, conditions of approval of class 4 CEQA exemption from minor alterations to land inconsistency with the EIR, the Marina Station project certified by the city of Marina in 2008. For trees in the permit 401 through 407, I also move that we request a continuance to come before our committee within a month, giving the developer time to consider altered grading plan relative to plans for the park.
I think that's good.
Any seconds?
Trust me, I'll read about that. It's-
Greg, second by.
Okay,
member
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't get to make the choices.
Great,
But I did want to answer your question.
thank you.
There is I think a restroom unit going in the park that's, it's basically mirrored.
You
when
guys
you
are
have-
done.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm being ejected.
Thank you very much.
We still have one more item on the.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
have
do.
another item.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, tree
Thank
committee,
you, tree committee.
very much in the spirit of Mike Owen.
Thank you for your.
Okay, thanks everybody. That was a tricky one.
So moving on to the final action item of the night, this action item, Greg, if you want to introduce it, you can. I'm sure. I don't have any report for you guys. I just, continuance basically the last meeting when you didn't have Judith at the meeting, so we want to get her in as well, and then you guys can tell us.
Yeah, let me, I'll do this over here and, this was an idea that I developed, by talking to people on other commissions in the city, things that their committees have done. And this is the idea of having, a work plan for what we're gonna try to do in the term of our appointment. And, I think everyone's learned that our appointment now is going to be 2 years. That was, I worked with Nick and Nick and Allison to kind of talk about that, and we proposed as an agenda item. And so in the last, meeting, we discussed it. And, the decision was we need some time to think about it, also Judith weren't here. And, so the session for tonight is, to kick these ideas around a little more and, either potentially propose other ideas that we haven't discussed. And then, our action item will be tonight, propose a subcommittee to write a draft work plan that then we would then bring back to a future community, probably the regular meeting. I think that was what we was, so. Judith, I don't know how much you've been able to look at these ideas, but that was just sort of that we would come up with some work and have a plan, and we use that to kind of direct the actions of the committee. Apart from special issues like tree removal. I made a note or two. My own perspective. What I had brought up was that we have a look at the tree ordinance and we're doing all that we want. Is it protective enough against hazards to trees? It's within the purview of the committee to protect the trees. For example, we've got the landmark tree designation. Yeah, other activities. So this could be, I think it would be a good place to do that. We could end up more persuasive and influential on the rest of the city that we have a new, potentially a new ordinance. A lot to get an ordinance done, but at least it will be a recommendation from the tree committee. I'm mostly thinking about ways that my own work, but just on this committee and within the place like see Marina, how do you make things like that? How can you persuade others to do things that you think are good ideas? And I think we just had an example of it, but these guys are open to doing something different. They said, well, yeah, we can do something different. They're locked into a plan for 2008. And so that's like, no one wants to go back to the city council. Our city council, I think, is a lot better than the House of Representatives. But still,
Just a little bit.
still going to the political body to get delays, and council member can say, yeah, well, we want you to build a nicer park on the other side, and you can see the streets. And I don't think that would happen, but introduce a bunch of bureaucracies. So can we do things to persuasion? And that would be an element that I think that we might be able to do. And maybe it's even within the recommendation for the ways that we can nudge or persuade her to have their own. So that was a big one for me. The other one was the tree list, which started. And then folks had some other ideas. And my only comment, and then I'll be quiet, was that I think we should not try to take on too much. We should do the right amount of work that we think we can get done. But we shouldn't add things that we can't do because it's too much. I think the problem with doing too much is loss of focus. And also, for human beings, we feel bad when you don't do the thing first to make the list. That is maybe not as hard as it might be. Having said that, first reaction about the idea of inventory existing trees, I thought, well, who's going to do that? It's a great idea. Are we really going to be able to manage that? So I'm open to being persuaded how we might impact that, well, as an example. But anyway, we have about 7 things on our list right now. Some of these things are rolled up in tree ordinance. So I think tree health, tree information, some of those things may not have to review. Some of those things would be rolled up in court. But anyway, those were my thoughts in the last meeting. Anybody else have any comments?
Are we gonna go through twenty?
Well, I think so. We're gonna discuss these. And then we're gonna appoint a subcommittee. The subcommittee will be relying on kind of the overall consensus of the committee, at least to get started. The subcommittee might come back with the exact same recommendation for something different. But anyway, I think these are sort of the roadmap of what we're trying to do right now. They're kicking around like this. I don't think they're ready to point something to this step. I'd say let's talk about this another 10 or 15 minutes and see what we think.
I think it's a good idea to have a roadmap. Prioritization of. I agree with you, please make it just for his trees is a big job. But I think the rest of them might. That's not to get out of situations. Here's one identified for development. So it's our last big development.
Yeah, Cypress Knolls. It's a tree ridge.
Very much.
And it's also, the city is the developer. Or will control the developer rather
Yes.
than.
Yeah.
Here is 180 acres. Let us know
Yeah.
how much you want to mow down.
Right, so we are preparing a request for proposals to put out there into the world to try to get a consultant to prepare a specific plan. So I actually, now that just listening to this short conversation about Cypress Knolls, we may be able to include a tree inventory of Cypress Knolls with the preparation of the.
There is one part.
I sent you one, right?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so that was done when the original subdivision was approved, I think. Yeah, same as this Marina Station, all of these happened almost at the same time, these big projects, and they died for, but I think, because one of the focuses on Cypress Knolls specifically that we heard from the community when we did our charrette, we prepared our vision plan was retaining as many of the trees and the natural contours as possible. Like the community wants that for Cypress Knolls. Whatever happens in that Cypress Knolls, they want to retain the natural contours and the trees. So I think it would make sense that an inventory would be part of a specific plan, because that's a major part of what it's talking about.
Cypress Knolls also has a very significant choke
Yeah,
point in 183 or some number of water permits, water meters.
there are water constraints on Cypress Knolls for sure.
Serious water.
Yeah, so it's a very challenging site, which is why the RFP has taken me,
So that
I don't
means
know,
that you're not
4
gonna
months
have
now, 5 months. left to
500
work on it.
houses. So I have 183 or less houses.
Why does that particular site have such a restraint?
It's all of the former Fort Ord properties have very strict water.
It's not just ours.
So are you suggesting that you would think that's part of the RFP then?
I would definitely, yeah, as staff working on the RFP, I can take that on as kind of my thing, not that I'm part of your committee, but
But I mean, would you do that or the consultant that we're hiring to develop.
I would include that requirement in the request for proposal, so whoever is chosen to prepare the specific plan would need to include that.
Well, yeah, so, I think those two are kind of related and as we're all volunteers, I don't know, I mean, people have ability in their private lights to go and do an inventory of all the trees in Marina. It's a great idea. I don't have time right now, but yeah, the Marina Tree and Garden Club it's been on there, it's been suggested that we take that on as a project, for example. So I mean, I think this might be try to convince people to go do it. somehow. Well, it's our 2 year work, but all these things are the things we're gonna work on over 2 years, and at the end of 2 years, we'll see where we got, basically.
I hear Bruce Delgado is retiring pretty soon. I'll have some time for.
I would say the same.
I know someone who knows about trees.
Just have a minor suggestion for the tree inventory. Rather than focusing on every single tree, you might want to focus on which trees you think are significant.
Yeah, and that, I agree, that's, and again, but it's the same kind of activity, I'm not sure that the tree committee has a bandwidth to do something, but we could make that a part of our ordinance, so what I think we can do is we can have some influence on policy. In that, by having that out there, maybe someone will take it up, or maybe it could be part of a new ordinance that says, you know, Marina as part of the city Marina as part of their commitment to having a bigger forest will go beyond the landmark tree designation. I think now is that somebody proposes that to make it a part of the activity of the city is that in our development plans, we're gonna consider that, and I think make that more prominent. And that doesn't mean and then maybe we suggest a mechanism that citizens can then submit for consideration. Think about these things that maybe we've done first.
Are you looking to wrap up this work by this meeting?
No, this is brainstorming. We're kind of reviewing the list we had from last time, and then if there are any new ideas, then we're gonna, our action item is to appoint subcommittee tonight to go actually write up work. That would pick up some of these things.
So you mentioned something about, a view of the city of the tree coverage. Other cities do that. Have we ever done that?
We have not, you need to have a budget. And it needs to, anytime you have a budget change, you need to get a priority of the city council. So the city council will have to make it one of their priorities. And the staff would have to find a budget to fill that goal. And then you would execute the tree inventory. So once the city has.
This is so much a tree inventory, what I was talking about, because I have friends in Atlanta, and it's an aerial view of your forest coverage.
Like a coverage. It's more of a coverage map than an individual
Right,
tree.
right. And
We have
a
that.
percentage
have
every
it.
year.
I mean, there are tools now to get that from Google Earth. If that exists.
Is that something we could use that's not gonna cost a lot? I have no idea.
Well, cost is time.
I'll also say that
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
flying California this year.
Yeah.
You will have high quality air satellite. So this is that.
Okay, because I have relatives in Atlanta that are on these tree things, and Atlanta has more tree coverage than any other city in the United States. And I guess they decreased, and yeah, they decreased that year, and the citizens were up for, like, why? Who's cutting down their own land? So it was just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, the city agency I used to work for, the LiDAR, fly over where you can tell the height of each building and tree. So they have a tree inventory which includes height, as well as, cover. But that's, it's a budgetary thing for cost of providing that coverage, but there's many services.
Okay, because I figured you guys have experience with it. So what you're talking about. Not a lot,
That's
but.
the federal government.
Yeah, yeah, you just-
Yeah, you can. But all the.
Yeah, I mean, that's
we
what
have
I was talking
to-
about, is getting a base as to what we are.
Yeah,
and
but we
what
would
we want to
still, you would still have to go on site to verify what plant. or
Right,
create a,
right.
Height. EPA,
Mhm.
but
It
it's a
was-
good start.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you know where you're at.
Yeah, that was where we have.
Yeah,
I think it's a good, these are great ideas. I think we can recommend that happens, but I don't see how the tree committee can go out and do that themselves. Talking about huge hours, like kind of work hours, you know. It's a
right.
I think that's important to us. We say, I mean, the work plan might be, what can we do as a tree committee to make this happen? What kinds of things can we do to foster this? And perhaps just by saying it's a need, maybe we produce a report about this. It's the health of the city trees. What are the gaps? What do we don't know? What do we need to do? And again, I'm trying to direct it back to us with policy. I think
Mhm.
I think that's what well, figuring out policy takes time too. But spending some time thinking about it, and then as a committee, we have a little bit of weight. We can persuade, we can, say, oh, they're the tree committee, they must know what they're doing. So, I mean, it might have some impact. And that, I think those kinds of things are worth it. The physical going out and actually putting the LiDAR and looking at the work and I don't know. I think that's outside of your bandwidth. No, it is outside of mine. I think it's a great idea.
Doing the LiDAR is not a process, but being, I think that, they've got it already available. That we can start. And it is only a quick type. Think we would be the public. Alongside. Everything else.
2 years and 4 quarterly meetings, and we spend some weekends. And, you know, I'm an analyst at work, and I actually work with GIS sometimes. Biologist, but it takes hours and hours and hours to collect. I don't know, like it takes hours and hours and hours to collect data and make reports, do imagery. I think I know it's outside the bandwidth, something we could do as a committee. But I think we could maybe talk about it.
I agree. That is one important thing. Right now, I feel. With the bunch. Some of us are. Yeah, I don't know. I just look at.
No, it's a very good idea. That was my only comment, and it sounds a little negative. But just that, I see this as a policy matter. And, but I think we can have a huge impact on what we're gonna, we could have a
Save about.
big impact on the direction of, about tree health. I think that's something we can do. So.
So it's our actual entrance.
Well, are there any new things to put on our list? One I heard was potentially convincing volunteers to do some of this stuff. Anything to think about for this?
Item 3 on the list. I'm interested in knowing what is the current practice in Marina for maintenance of trees.
From the city.
Not, totally setting aside what's the best practice, if we write that up, but what is our current practice for I'm sure it would be the city maintenance of trees. Is there a budget and it's?
The Public Works Department has budget to maintain city trees, like trees in the public right of way or city parks. Yeah, I'm guessing it's very small.
Probably is more spent on removing when they get damaged or.
No, they do.
They do a lot of
They
trimming.
hire some out.
Yeah.
About their.
Yeah.
They do quite a bit themselves.
But they will definitely take out, you know, if it's damaged to a point where it's gonna die.
I see them mostly trimming up. I don't think they do that.
But that's only for city trees, in the public right of way or public park.
There'll be a lot of trimming is done by G&E or other utilities.
Yeah,
And their trimming is probably not a best practice.
probably not.
So
We have,
they just chop and
What
give it
I would
away.
say is the worst.
yeah, we have no control over their easement activities.
That's a life safety trimming, not.
Yeah.
Tree preserve.
I think we could have some influence on, I think that's there because, it shows up in the tree ordinance, and it shows up in tree removal permits and some other places. I don't think it's that prominent. And so like, for example, a city like San Francisco, you cannot touch the trees. It's illegal to prune any of the trees in the right of way. And they're maintained by the city. That's true. Yeah, you can't, citizens cannot touch it. You get fined if you even if you know what you're doing. And we don't have anything like that. We don't have street trees. But so I'll use the example of a public space, which I don't know that we control either, but maybe we could, maybe we could persuade. But on Reservation Road, the bus center, every year they flat top those trees that all those Arbutus Marina. Yeah, yeah, and then we go over across the road to the post office. They well top the oak trees. So I don't know if we can tell those landowners what to do, but they're in our city. And maybe as a persuasive body, we could recommend better practices all around. And that's kind of what my thinking is. Let's just make, as part of this tree ordinance, if we can advise it or make recommendations. Or perhaps we can have something just on the website. I don't know, but that's the topic. I think is, can we make tree health a thing in Marina? How do we do that? And I think that was sort of the notion of that idea. Something like that.
Don't know. Is that possible?
We should. That's part of an update of the. Have the little sections of tree ordinance.
You
We
could,
do an update.
you could request a presentation from who works on what their tree practices are. We understand what they do. Most cities have an arborist on staff. We don't have one. I mean, it's part-time, so all the tree stuff is handled by the planners, and we are not experts in trees, experts in generalized information.
Hired, seems like we've hired consulting arborists.
We have.
Yeah, for specific.
Yeah,
And we, in the past, we had 3 consulting arborists that we had from a list that we could have applicants can use, and that list is expired, so we could reopen that process again to, go through looking at arborists, and then the tree committee can start with the tree committee, for instance. You guys would look at, we could request, do an RFP for our arborists, and then, see which ones are willing to do X, Y, and Z. And if that's something that we'll look at.
It's not exactly on here. But it's the tree list is kind of part of it. In the downtown specific plan, there's a meeting about it pretty soon, right?
There was a workshop today.
Will there be?
That's why we're in this tiny little room.
That's, I was slightly involved with the original preparation of the plan, but there is going to be a big move to really make downtown nicer. It sounds like it's getting started again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The downtown plan is going kind of for a study session style with the planning commission this coming meeting on the 26th. Yeah,
Is this going ahead forward? Is that kind of?
it is going forward. Yes, it's been many years.
Yeah.
It is truly going forward. It's not for action at the planning commission. It's just the draft is out.
Plan.
The draft is out for public review. On our website, but, I am not, I haven't read it in depth, so I don't know what it says about trees.
Well, it has a whole section about recommending trees, and I kind of, the thing I was trying to get at was, I think there was an opportunity there to, potentially bring in street trees as part of that development. And I think that's something that's missing also in Marina, as we don't have street trees in the program. So I would, I'd be, the agenda item or the work plan item might be in the tree committee, consider ways to try to promote a street tree program or something. Sounds a little weak, but just the idea of making that a value. What in the tree committee, street tree. It's a tree basically growing, I guess in the right of way, on the sidewalk or median, essentially.
You're near a parkway,
Yeah,
a sidewalk.
Parkway. There are trees that are well behaved generally. I mean, they have root systems that are invasive. They have canopies, these, they're sited so that, they're utility lines and use certain kinds of smaller trees. Trees are good, and then they also very environmentally tolerant to street conditions, poor soils, pests potentially, strong branches, so you're not always like have branches fall down. We wouldn't plant eucalyptus as street trees.
Not anymore.
Yeah. So anyway, that's part of what our concept of the tree list was early on was. Marina's a great small city. Has the potential. There's a lot of good things about things, but we're not a great tree city. And there are some cities our size that are. But most of the cities that really have good food programs are bigger, more money. I think there's a remnant of military influence on what happened here. We just built these houses quickly with troops. And, I'm not saying anything bad about anybody who ever served in the military, but a military thing is to have vegetation that's easily managed. I've worked on some military facilities. And it's like that's yeah. So anyway, I think there's a legacy of the military in this town. But,
with the one for tonight, Marina Station. I envision 2,000 or 3,000 trees to be planted.
Yep.
And there is easily that many in the dunes that are being planted and a like number in all the new subdivisions. Cypress Mills is very unique. Hopefully it won't be clear deforested like the dunes and CA. Or
Well, the station basically has it.
yes,
They have-
Marina Station
They like
is a pallet, an empty pallet.
Yeah,
But the one that we have the most influence on is probably Cypress Mills. But otherwise, the new major subdivisions, Dunes, Sea Haven, and this one tonight, that's going to add nominally 10,000 trees, all in the same span of 10 years. Something like that. So that'll change the canopy of the city.
If they're new trees, they're smaller, so.
Yeah, but in 30 years. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else want to add anything before we make the motion?
You're gonna make the motion to the others.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that we form a subcommittee, such to the action item, where is it on the agenda? Um, make a motion, to have a subcommittee of 2 members to, write, well, I'm gonna suggest write a draft work plan and bring it back to the committee for their review. And I'm gonna nominate myself as one of the members. That's it. I'm looking at things together.
So just for clarification, it sounded like earlier you didn't think you would be actually appointing the subcommittee at this meeting.
I thought we were, I thought we were.
I thought, yeah, I think it is written that way.
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
did not say that, I
Okay.
said it wrong, and I said that. No, I'm thinking we should do it tonight, for plan. So, do we just make the motion first, or can I nominate myself within the motion?
I think it's totally acceptable to nominate yourself and then find that second person. You know, and then finalize the motion and then make them do it all in one.
Are there anybody else who want to be on the subcommittee, interested to be on the subcommittee? Yeah, vote, who wants to be on it? Mark?
So you went to the bus list.
Unless somebody,
We have a second of that motion. Thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
That's it.
Okay. All right. Are there any informational items? None. Discussion items, none. Correspondence, none. I move that we adjourn the meeting.
we have to discuss a date for this, for the
Oh.
next meeting, please.
Yeah, the second meeting, there is a discussion item. Let's go through our calendars, because if it's gonna be time sensitive, we want to make sure we can come.
I can send out an email tomorrow morning and
Get responsive.
get responses and then, because we didn't make that motion, include a date certain in the motion for the previous item, we're gonna have to renotice it anyway, so it's okay if we just do it tomorrow morning. I can send an email out to everyone
You sounded like a month. It's fine.
within a month. You said within a month, so I'll send out 2 dates, one 3 weeks from today and one 4 weeks. So that's where we're at. Yeah, I think Wednesdays work. That's, but if you guys are, if one of those Wednesdays, if none of those Wednesdays work, we can also maybe do a Thursday. No, that's not a PC meeting. So
You don't want to go too much further.
that's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
the
3
holidays are coming.
3 weeks out would be the second week of November, and the 3 weeks out would be this. Is the 4th week, so
You look at it,
1,
the
2,
eighth or the 15th.
3 would be the 8th. And the 4 would be the 15th of November. So that's the week before Thanksgiving, so that's right before people go away. Unless you part your next week.
What is the point here?
Yeah, the 27th, the Wednesday.
Thanksgiving.
Or so, Wednesday, this is Thanksgiving.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, Thursday, the 23rd.
Yeah, and it's also gonna be contingent on the developer.
Yeah, so Andy
Coming up
Hunter,
with
their engineer, will have to do some analysis and some work on that, and he's the major engineer for all data development, so he's quite busy.
He's working on all the projects.
Every single, yeah, he's the main engineering.
Because he doesn't actually work for him.
No, he's
Working with
a
him.
consultant, right?
He's
Oh,
under contract.
That's why, same with Patrick Kovichar, he worked for a consultant who yeah.
Right.
So he's just doing.
Okay, no.
No, yeah. The only person from the development was like, well, They're all with it. Working on, yeah, he works for the developer.
They're all getting paid by us.
Correct.
But he's, so the engineer's working on Sea Haven
Correct.
and the staging.
And the new.
So we have to move, we have to vote on an adjournment or just.
No, you just, you as a chair, you can adjourn.
By order of the chair.
We're adjourned.
For work. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.